Minerals Committee, House Minerals Committee for this session, and the last one for this week. So, Libby, would you call the roll, please?
Representative Campbell,
Here.
Representative Knapp,
Here.
Representative Larson,
Here.
Representative Lawley,
Excused.
Representative Riggins,
Here.
Representative Schmid,
Here.
Representative Tarver,
Here.
Representative Weber, here, Chairman Heiner.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Libby. I'd like to just remind everyone to silence their phones if you haven't already, and appreciate your participation, and hopefully all those that want to provide testimony will be able to. Our first bill for the morning is House Bill 43, anti-money laundering. Do we have anyone going to present that bill? Does anyone want to present that bill? Does anyone care about that bill? We have a Senator Emeritus. You're going to read the bill and then present it? Back in the hot seat. This came from our gaming's commission, our little subcommittee. I'm surprised we don't have a member of that committee here.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Affie Ellis. I am here today representing Cowboy Racing. Cowboy Racing is building or has built a track 10 miles east of Cheyenne. We have participated in the gaming conversation and the work of the Select Committee on Gaming throughout this last interim. I want to be very clear that I was not prepared to present this bill. I wish someone from the committee or someone else was here to do that, but
Miss Ellis,
yes,
this isn't proper for you to present the bill. I'm sorry.
I would wholly agree.
So
And
without,
thank you.
without the member of the committee here to
Mr.
provide
Chairman,
support,
I
we're
believe
gonna
the director of the gaming commission might be in the room. I thought I saw him in here. He might be a more appropriate
without a member
person.
of that subcommittee here, we're going to table this bill for today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Members, I make a motion that we table this bill until next Monday. Are there any objections or comments? No, that's not debatable. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Do we want to table any more while we're here? This is going well. All right, the next one for our consideration is House Bill 121, hydrogen severance taxation. Representative Campbell, do you want to take the hot seat?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, committee. This morning I'd like to present House Bill 121, which is an attempt to bring a state policy to create a severance tax on hydrogen. This is an act relating to mine product taxes, providing for the taxation of hydrogen production as specified, specifying tax rates for different types of hydrogen production, providing for the administration of the tax, and specifying applicability and providing for an effective date. Basically, what this does is it creates a severance tax on hydrogen. Right now, we do not have any hydrogen production aside from natural hydrogen, which is pretty rare. But hydrogen is an up-and-coming industry. It relates to ammonia, fertilizers. There's a lot of different energy industries that are tied to it. And as such, we need to be ahead of the game and have a severance system in play so we're prepared for this. And this is what I have attempted to do. This is actually rerun from Representative Tarver's bill from last year. We just clarified a few things. And basically what we do in this is we create separate classes of severance on the hydrogen. First, I'd like to address the point of, well, taxation. Feedstock is very important because you have really two different types of feedstock. Basically, you have methane and water. And this separates, while we realize these are two separate classifications of feedstock, ultimately hydrogen is the intended product. So with that in mind, we have to kind of separate ourselves from the traditional thought of severance and the fact of where something leaves the ground, because that is not occurring here. This is the hydrogen, or we're looking at several different forms of methane. We could use biomethane from animals, biomass. We could use methane from natural gas, which I very much support that one. Or we can use methane from electrolysis with water. Regardless of what we do, this bill is designed to create the point of severance, not where it leaves the ground or where it leaves the wellhead, but instead where the hydrogen is actually produced. In the case of the feedstock of water, when electrolysis occurs and the hydrogen and the oxygen are separated, that would be the point of severance. Is everybody following this? In the case of methane, you're not using electrolysis. You're using pyrolysis, which is high temperature heat. And with that, what you're doing is you're superheating this methane up to the point, flash point is what we know as combustion. That's where poof, it turns into flame. What we're doing here is we're heating this up to a super high temperature just before that flash point where the hydrogen spins off and we're left with a solid carbon fiber. When that hydrogen again spins off and separates, that is the point of severance. Hydrogen is a little bit different. It's classified as a hydrocarbon, but it's a little bit different kind of critter. With this in mind, I put two different classifications on the water feedstock. We're gonna put a 3% severance tax on production water and wastewater from our oil fields, our coal bed methane. This is good use of water that would otherwise be a potential risk. Yet at the same time, I want to create a 9% severance tax on our ag water, our potable water. I'll be unbiased. Wyoming is an arid state and water is sacred in Wyoming. I think that this bill is a specific purpose to tell, I want the developers to know in advance. Wyoming takes our water serious, and you're going to have to pay a premium if you're going to use our ag water, our potable water for industrial purposes. Yet at the same time, we are going to reward you if you take advantages of a waste stream. And that is pretty much the nuts and the bolts of this bill. With that, I'd stand for any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative. Representative Lawley, questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Representative Campbell, for bringing the bill. Just a few questions. One is just to save me a trip to the green books over there, but on page 420, line 20 through 23, particularly line 23, you make reference to distribution. Could you explain for us what statute 3914-211, what is that method of distribution there?
Representative Campbell.
We're working on that, on how that money will be distributed. I think that we will clarify that a little later in this meeting.
Okay,
Representative Lawley, if that
Great.
helps.
thank you.
Follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You talked about the produced water, and I really like what you've done here, putting that at a different rate. It's come up in some other discussions we've had in Select Water about the technology advancing in the area of how they can sort of clean up that water in a cost-effective way in order to be able to do something like produce hydrogen from it. Can you just talk a little bit about that for folks in the room and people listening in?
Representative Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Representative Lawley. You know, I can't really dive into the technical aspects of it because to be very honest, I spent the majority of my focus on turquoise hydrogen because I feel that it is of better benefit for the state of Wyoming. And when I first started looking into the blue technologies and the green technologies, you must understand that people get confused when I talk about the hydrogen colors. Hydrogen is hydrogen. It's still the first element on the periodic table. But the process, and by the process, I mean the methodology used to create the hydrogen, the feedstock used to create the hydrogen, and where the power source comes from are the three things that determine the color of each hydrogen. For example, green hydrogen, the feedstock is water. The process is electrolysis. The power, in order to be classified, as green hydrogen, power source must be wind and solar. If we were to have that exact same equation, but remove the wind and solar and insert nuclear, now it's pink hydrogen rather than green hydrogen. Let's take out that nuclear, put a power plant. We just made gray hydrogen. So that is where that color code comes in. Turquoise hydrogen is the only hydrogen technology that does not use water as a feedstock. That's the reason why I'm so focused on that. I hope that clarifies.
Yes, a little bit, but thank you very much.
Representative Riggins, question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Representative Campbell. So if we're looking at natural gas, extracting it from natural gas, there's already about half a dozen products that come from natural gas: propane, butane, isobutane, Y-grade. So where does that fit in that post-processing on that with hydrogen? So are we talking commercial grade gas? Are you talking rich gas? Where does that come from?
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Representative Riggins, for that question. Those are all normal processes in the gas stream. You know, you got benzene, toluene, xylene, all your aromatics. Those are normal gas processes. The difference here is we are taking methane. You know, what is it? 80% of natural gas is methane. So what we're doing is we're taking the methane out of that. Okay, now that is a natural part of the gas process. But once they take that and turn it into hydrogen, then it's a hydrogen. Does that make sense? Okay.
Follow up, Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm more thinking about how the severance is applied. Once they extract it, is it from the, we'll have somebody in this room that can answer this question. Pre-processed, post-processing, where the severance will take place for that product.
Let's hold that question for later testimony then. Any other questions? Representative Campbell, potable water. There's some wells, some CBM, coal bed methane wells that actually produce potable water. So would you classify that as produced water for the 3% severance tax or potable water at 9%?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Chairman. You know, I think that that's something that I might have to look into on there because that is a waste stream. But as potable water, I may have to do some cleanup on that.
All right, thank you. That just something to consider. Also, something else to consider, and you may have this answer already. Hydrogen can be formed from coal as well as natural gas, and we're already paying severance tax on the coal and natural gas. So is this a compound or in lieu of?
From what I understand, this is in lieu of.
Okay, all right, we'll make sure that we get that clarification as well. So, any other questions? Representative Campbell, it's my am I right that right now hydrogen is not taxed? We have nothing, no mechanism for severance tax without this bill.
Mr. Chairman, you are correct. Wyoming has no hydrogen policy at this time.
Okay, thank you. All right. Seeing no further questions, thank you. Appreciate your testimony and presenting the bill.
Thank you for your time.
If you would return to the dais, I'll invite any other public testimony at this time. Is the governor's office still here? Not seeing anyone from the governor's office. Any other agencies of the government, agencies of the state?
Good morning, Mr.
Good
Chairman,
morning.
members of the committee. My name is Matt Sachet. I'm the administrator of the Mineral Tax Division of the Department of Revenue. And it will be our job to administer this bill once it becomes statute. I would like to start by saying that in its current form, we have a couple of issues with it just technically. If you would like, I can walk through what the technical issues are, and I've provided some language that maybe we could work with LSO on, but there's a few technical issues.
I would
One
appreciate
of
that.
which Representative Lawley has already brought up.
Please proceed, Mr. Sachet.
Okay, thank you, sir. If we look at page 2 and we look at line 15 through 18, you'll see that this references the administration and confidentiality section of the current statutes. The current statutes include gross products as well as severance. I have spoken with the bill's bringer, and it's his intention to do just severance. If you are to look at page 4, in line 10, you'll see he included severance related provisions. In line 14, severance related provisions in line. I would just like to add that into this section, severance related provisions of the existing statute. That way we specify that this is just a severance. It's not an ad valorem tax.
Okay.
One of the issues is that as the statutes are currently written, in this instance, the point of valuation, the point we're going to value it for taxation, actually occurs before it's produced. So if we could add, I've come up with a bit of language. If you look at line 4 on page 3, you'll see that it says the basis of tax shall be in compliance with 3914-203. Okay. That includes a lot of information, but we would like to add a Romanet 1 to this section. And in that Romanet 1, it identifies that the production process for hydrogen is completed after any activity that occurs before the outlet of the hydrogen production facility, meaning we are moving the point of valuation to the end of the facility where it's actually manufactured. This language is edited from current language in the statute for 3914-203A4. So all I did was take that language that we use for other severance taxes and did a few edits so that it was specific to hydrogen.
Mr. Sachet, I appreciate, I've been involved in a lot of the litigation that's gone on in the past with point of the, where it's valued for natural gas. I know how critical it is we get this right.
Yes, sir. It is
So
very
thank you,
critical.
thank you
Thank
for
you.
this input.
Could you read it again?
Can you repeat that subparagraph one more time for us?
Yes, sir. The production process for hydrogen is completed after any activity that occurs before the outlet of the hydrogen production facility. And hydrogen production, that term has been defined by Representative Campbell. It's in the statute. So we have clarification as to what exactly that is.
Okay, thank you.
One of the things I would like to point out is the 9% and 3% tax rates are outside of our normal tax structure. The normal tax structure has 4 excise taxes that when come together to create a 6% tax. The decision by this body of 9 or 3 is fine with us. We can administer that, no problem. The issue we do have is in distribution, because the distribution does require us to follow the tax rate structure. So we would like to add, if possible, under page 4, line 21, that says that the state treasurer shall transfer 1 1/2% of the revenue collected from the severance tax imposed by this article into the permanent Wyoming Mineral Trust Fund. The treasurer shall transfer the remaining revenue collected from this article into the severance distribution account. That allows us a method of getting the rest of this money out and distributed where it needs to go. This is language that is similar to what's in 3914-211A, and with just some changes to allow for the overage that we're going to see, because it's going to be 3% more on the water. So that needs to have somewhere to go. So other than that, if we can make these changes, we can administer this statute.
Thank you,
And I'll
Mr.
stand for any
Sachet.
questions.
And do you have those notes that you could share with LSO so that we do get the words as, because it's important. This is very important. We recognize this.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I can provide them, and then they can do any edits they need.
Okay, thank you. Assuming we take those amendments under advisement.
Yes, sir.
All right, any questions for Mr. Sachet? Seeing none, thank you so much for your input.
Thank you, sir.
Any other agencies in the room that would like to provide testimony? Please come forward. Any other government agencies? If not, anyone can come forward. Rennie?
Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Please proceed.
Rennie
Hey,
McKay, President of the Wyoming Business Alliance. For those of you who don't know, the Wyoming Business Alliance is a private organization, and we are a member-based organization. We represent businesses from every industry in Wyoming and every size of industry in Wyoming and every corner of Wyoming. Our main focus is trying to make those businesses thrive here. We have several priorities that as we look at that, and one of them is just to maintain Wyoming's energy leadership. And so really appreciate you looking at this bill. I think it's always an important topic to kind of try to figure out where revenues are going to come from as you move forward. But I think as we try to be leaders in Wyoming, the Business Alliance is concerned about this bill, and we'll kind of get into a couple of factors. I'm joined today by a friend you may know him as the mayor of Pinedale, but I've also really enjoyed getting to know him because he's a business owner. And so he's going to be able to tell you a little bit if you've got any technical questions about hydrogen production or just hydrogen generally. He's an expert, and he also really, as long as I've known him, he's had to go through the dynamics of what it's like to try to start a company and really get off the ground if you're trying to be into a different space and use different technologies. And also have to deal with a few of the other Western states around the nation and challenges on that front. So glad he's with me. But just I guess overall, I think the main issue is I did want to flag hydrogen is currently produced in Wyoming as part of the fertilizer process. So for those of you in southwestern Wyoming, you probably know a member of the Wyoming Business Alliance as they produce fertilizer and ammonia. Hydrogen is produced right now. So you'd be putting a tax on that production. I think as I currently read the bill, that would be a new tax on that product. And so I think it's just that takes us to the bigger picture. And that is, as talked to other members, very large and very small, there's challenges, I think, if we right now with an industry that is so nascent to try to put a tax on it, because everybody's trying to figure out where to put their investment dollars right now. And it's really competitive, especially in this industry. So I think that I really worry that a neighbor over in Utah, who's just really aggressive right now in growing their energy industry, would love to take advantage of us taxing this because as the bringer of the bill, I really appreciate his thinking on this. Wyoming natural gas, if they just get it across the border and then you produce hydrogen with it over there and they've got incentives and no tax, then, I think we've got just a competitive disadvantage. So the other use, I think, as you all know, is that you can put hydrogen into a natural gas pipeline right now and mix that. And so as we're looking for new markets, that's a great opportunity for Wyoming, is to have that blend. I'd hate to have that blend happen somewhere else along the way to the markets usually to the west of us that are really looking for those lower carbon ideas. So, Mr. Chairman, I think just broadly, I think this is a really worthwhile conversation to always continue to have. But the biggest concern I have is that this would put a chill on the potential investments that I hope will come, but they're not here yet. So I think we've got an opportunity to kind of maintain our energy leadership. I think the first plants would be using natural gas on a large scale. You can convert coal to hydrogen, as you mentioned, let alone use coal to create hydrogen. So there's a lot of different ways to approach this. And I think this could be good for our existing industries and help that diversification. So I just hope we'd hit pause on this concept for right now, see if this industry can take off in the next few years, and then continue the conversation. So thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. McKay. Question, Representative Campbell, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, sir, for being here. I wanted to address your tax concerns a little bit. I'd like to direct your attention to subsection E.
On which page?
It would be on page 3, subsection E. There is some concern that there's going to be double taxation and all this. And so I want you to read subsection E because it includes a specific non-duplication clause stating that nothing in the law shall require the severance tax to be paid more than one time for the same gross product. Does that help you at all?
Mr. McKay?
Mr. Chairman, I think that you may be getting at some of the ways to help address this, but I think that we may be looking at the bigger picture too is going to be, what will people want to invest in an entire hydrogen project? And so I think that I'll just let you know that we'd have to have a lot of conversations with industry to make sure that those investors, because you've got small businesses like this one, and you've got very large ones, and the large ones I know are concerned with this, that there's a message. So I think, again, it is potentially helpful, but right now everyone's feeling like this is a message of saying don't invest in Wyoming. So I think we just have to, there may be communication work that's ahead, but I think we're trying to figure out ways to get natural gas to hydrogen projects here. So I think this is a little alarming for some folks.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Representative Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Rennie, for being here. So if this bill doesn't happen, the hydrogen business does come to Wyoming, and then we try to implement the tax, what are the hurdles for that company? What's going to happen then? What's your thoughts there?
Mr. McKay.
Well, I think there are probably some better experts available to you to know this, but I think the main thought I have is right now, hydrogen, especially for a use on its own, is not commercial. It has not made it yet. So I have a good friend who works in the hydrogen fuel cell business. So they have powered buses. His company has powered buses around the globe for about 30 years. But they cannot move. You have to subsidize them. The cost of the hydrogen at the pump essentially is too high. So we just have this situation of this industry has not yet really found its commercial wings to fly. So I think there's a big question to just say, what is going to happen? So I think the biggest use for hydrogen that is potential right now is going to be trying to figure out all these other blends. And so it is going to be helping a company lift off. And then I think if we ever get to a really strong commercial hydrogen market, I think that then you've got conversations ahead of you. But you will definitely have taxpayer payments of tax. If a company came here without this bill, they would be paying enormous amounts of sales tax to build here. They'd be paying property tax to build here, and they would be paying something on severance tax.
All right. Representative Lawley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here. Mr. McCain, thanks for your testimony. You mentioned what Utah's doing. What about other surrounding states? Have they tried to implement anything on taxing of hydrogen that you know of?
Yes,
Mr. Chairman.
Representative Mr. McKay.
No, this would be very unusual in the country and world at this point, because I think most states are actually trying to incentivize it.
Follow up.
Follow up.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So if we wanted to put some kind of placeholder, and I'm not saying we do, I'm just hypothetically here, what would you do? What would seem to be a good idea to you? I know that's probably a hard one in your position to answer, but I would like some guidance on that if we wanted a placeholder. And again, I'm not saying that we do, but what
Mr.
would you-
McKay.
Mr. Chairman, thanks. I'm taking that to you're trying to figure out that signal that you're saying we will tax someday. That Wyoming wants to say, if you get to a certain threshold with competitiveness and growth, that there will be some sort of tax on the creation of hydrogen in Wyoming. Be an interesting conversation, because I think you looked at this, I think, with other thresholds, right? Does the cost of a product drop below a certain amount, and then, you have different triggers around kind of what the potential taxation might be on it. We've thought about that with other products in Wyoming. So my thought would be you'd probably want to aim at that, not necessarily a time period. You would want to say, if the industry is so profitable and the cost reaches some point, then that is a signal that it's commercially viable. So that would be, I think you would want to bring in some people a lot smarter than me to actually figure out what you would put on that as the trigger. But I understand what you're trying to get at.
Follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for that. Would that too have its own kind of chilling effect? To have something that says, if you come, we will tax?
Mr. McKay.
I would, Mr. Chairman, thanks. I would really want to talk to a few of the investors because they might tell you that there is a trigger that is saying, oh, this shows that things have been successful enough in this industry that it's mature enough that it's ready for taxation.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Representative Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On page 3, it outlines the the 9% tax rate for potable water. If this bill does end up moving forward, would you view it favorable to make that tax rate 6% to make it in parity with our coal severance tax rate? I think, a lot of times I'll see different severance tax rates for different products. And I think if we can bring those in alignment, I think that really shows that Wyoming is open to all business. And, I just want your opinion on that. So.
Mr. McKay?
Mr. Chairman, again, I really understand, having been around Wyoming long enough and faced some hard conversations of figuring out that you want some revenue from an industry. But the main issue is I think if you put a tax on right now, that would just discourage that you'd get zero revenue ever, because we would discourage investments in Wyoming. So I would say couldn't support that at this time. I think there's a conversation about what does a trigger look like in the future. But I think even if you go there, you would never get any taxpayer to ever come in and pay on that conversion. So if you're trying to regulate and say we don't want Wyoming water used for hydrogen, that's another conversation. But I think what you're truly looking for is revenue. I don't think you will ever get a dollar paid with a tax on that at this time.
Mr. Mayor, you have something to say. Would you introduce yourself and
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And my name is Matt Murdoch. I am the mayor of the town of Pinedale that sits in the beautiful Wind Rivers and at the foot of Fremont Lake. I am also the CEO of Raven SR, which is a fairly unknown Wyoming company. Yet we are doing projects in Spain, Japan, France, California, different parts around the world. Our process is a patented process that converts waste into a high-grade syngas, which could then go into jet fuel, methanol, hydrogen, et cetera. We are currently probably the largest non-electrolytic hydrogen project in California, possibly the world, producing about 7 tons of hydrogen a day that's going to be built in Northern California after having gone through the Bay Area Air Quality Management District's air quality threshold. Which was a big process, I will tell you. And Wyoming is far, far easier. So from that perspective, regulation is much easier in Wyoming. But there is, and I think Representative Campbell's comments are correct, there is no hydrogen business plan in Wyoming. And I go into Representative Lawley's question with think this is something that needs to be thought about. There is great potential here in Wyoming to produce hydrogen from multiple different feedstocks. I disagree with the bringer of the bill. I would argue that it's not severance. It's actually manufacturing. When we break a water molecule or we break up a hydrocarbon molecule, or if I take Cheyenne's waste and convert it into fuel, that's more manufacturing. It's not severance. To say I'm severing the carbon from the hydrogen is a little bit of a discussion. But I also, to that point, have been speaking for many years. I speak quite honestly around the world on this topic. And I have been arguing for a very long time that the best is the enemy of the good. And for California, and I've had this conversation with very highly elected officials there, the argument of we need to have quote unquote green hydrogen as opposed to blue hydrogen or whatever is actually hurting the hydrogen economy. The ability to get hydrogen from any source, I think, is extremely important. And looking at what the carbon intensity of it is rather than the color, I hate colors, is really important. And some fuels will have a higher carbon intensity and others will have a lower, and you should reward the lower if you're driving to that direction. But the point is hydrogen can be used to make jet fuel, power to liquids. It can be used for making ammonia. Hydrogen is being highly sought after, not just for hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, but also for aircraft fuel and making synthetic fuel. So it is a very highly sought after product. The challenge is producing it at the cost that people need it. In the world today, the environmental movement would like to say that we need green hydrogen, if you will, in the steel industry, because it's probably the largest user of hydrogen. But there's no way that we can produce a less than $2 per kilo hydrogen price unless you're using something like natural gas or coal. And that's, again, where we need to come into these discussions. And I think Wyoming stands at the doorway of a really big business. But I know my investors, who include some very major publicly traded companies, would not consider doing a hydrogen project in Wyoming because A, it's an unfriendly environment towards hydrogen in that sense that there's no market for it. And two, if there were a tax, then they would say, look, I can sell my hydrogen for $10 a kilo in California. Why would I do it in Wyoming? And that's me having to go through torture to get a project going in California, quite honestly. Wyoming stands a great place. So I am also a very big believer, and I respect Representative Campbell's point because, again, as I pointed out, the mayor of Pinedale, Water Colorado River Compact, it is on my daily agenda. So when I'm in California and they're using water to make hydrogen, I'm very, very vocal about that. And I've talked to our congressional delegation about that. So I do appreciate the fact that we need to protect that resource. And I think from those perspectives, that is a resource. But I would argue that to begin with, it's a very nascent industry. And it's not just hydrogen fuel cells, it's methanol, it's ammonia, it's all these fuels that the world is wanting to quote unquote transition to. But transitions involve leaving one or using one to go to the other. And Wyoming sits in a very, very wealthy place to make these fuels. So whatever we can do to encourage that industry with the expectation, and I think we vocally say, look, we want this industry to go, and then there will be taxes. That's to be expected. I know that we're getting credits on our hydrogen in California, but we know those credits will go away, but we're still doing business there.
So, Mr. Murdoch, you're saying there's no taxes on California for hydrogen?
There is actually credits where there would be a sales tax. There's a tax on the selling of the hydrogen. So when I sell it to somebody, we pay a tax on that. But in our instance, for example, where we're doing our project in California, we're taking municipal solid waste and converting it to hydrogen. I do not have any particular tax related to that. I actually get a credit if I get a greener molecule.
And Mr. Murdoch, what is the sales tax rate?
Oh, it's 11, 10, 8 to 11%. I mean, California is killer.
Okay.
To your point, Mr. Chairman.
So
Yeah.
you are taxed in one form or
Yeah,
another.
on one form or another, we are absolutely taxed. And so I think, I think we have a taxing system, which is absolutely fair. And that should apply to anybody. And I would never say waive that, whether it's wind, solar, or hydrogen molecules. Always charge those taxes. But the severance tax gets into another discussion.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Vice Chair Tarver.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. So I did bring this bill, but my bill was very different. My bill was basically trying to steer it against water, production water and fresh water, because I want to protect our fresh water. So just a quick question, would you guys support this if it was only directed at fresh water and production water?
Mr. Murdoch?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you to Representative Tarver. Again, as the mayor of Pinedale, protect our resources. Our water is, we're looking at a lot of issues going on. Electrolytic hydrogen, where you take electricity and apply it to the water molecule to separate it, uses about 50 to 60 kilowatts per kilo and 2 gallons of water for every kilo. It's really, I argue, not a very green process. It might have a low carbon intensity, but in regions where you're like, oh, we're producing green hydrogen, and I would disagree with Representative Campbell respectfully that I think green hydrogen is more focused on where our carbon intensity is. But we look at the broader picture, and when you're using a limited source like water, I would argue that's not green. So would I support something to that degree? I mean, I think we want the industry to get going. So I think it's the flip side. What California did is they were like, we only want electrolytic hydrogen. Congress is doing bills like that. And then they're shutting the door on other businesses that could have solved it, like natural gas to hydrogen. So I'd say, let's not shut the door, but I don't think it's unfair to say, let's have something on there, because if you're using our precious limited resource for producing something, then there should be maybe a charge for that. But where that is or what day that begins, I think that would require some discussion.
And just as a side note, I did a calculation a number of years ago to produce the amount of hydrogen to replace the amount of oil and gas produced in Wyoming would take all of the water in the Green River. All of the river water in the Green River to make that much.
Respectfully, Mr. Chairman, the methane molecule is a very powerful molecule. Before you replace the methane molecule, that CH4 with a couple of H2s, it's going to take some time.
Yep. Representative Riggins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Murdoch. I'm thinking that this approach should be a little bit different. The hydrogen market, maybe it should be approached like we have with our CO2 market. And, it's just the opposite a little bit, because CO2 market is while it's been around a long time, what to do with it now
Yeah.
is a little bit different. You're not even at that stage yet. So what are your thoughts?
Mr. Chairman, through you to Representative Riggins, when I have discussions about selling hydrogen, it's like a dance. If you want to sell oil, you want to sell natural gas, you just tell people what your price is, you're done. The market for hydrogen is crazy confusing, and it takes you 3.5 months to come to a price that we can all agree to. So I do think that we need to approach it from a different perspective. It is not a hydrocarbon, and it's not yet to the CO2 market. And it's just, as Mr. McKay said, it's a nascent economy, but it's being demanded everywhere. Everybody wants it in some kind of fuel or another. And if we can do it cleaner and greener, even if it's with natural gas or coal, then you're going to have a market for it. And the other thing is that hydrogen is what we call a very slippery molecule. So the pipelines we have for natural gas are not going to be able to hold that. So you have to lay another whole element of network in there. But I do know that there is a market for it.
Any further questions?
Just one.
Representative Lally.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here. Very helpful background that the committee didn't have, Mr. Murdoch. So I'm intrigued by the idea of a different approach, like a sales tax, because we've wrestled with this before. This, again, as we heard earlier, the bill that's been before us, we've tried to wrestle it down. And even when I first entered the Minerals Committee a number of years ago, how do we do it? What would be the best way? And we've kind of gravitated toward this idea of severance tax because it's useful. We kind of know where the money goes from a severance tax, and we kind of like that distribution system. But I just have never felt that that was the right tax, but trying to figure out what is. So, and regardless of the rate in California, are there other places you operate where they use a sales tax as some way? Is that kind of a common approach in some places? Could you elaborate?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, through you to Representative Lally. I am actually, in none of my experiences, familiar with the severance tax on hydrogen. Again, as I said in the beginning, we wouldn't treat it as severance, we'd treat it as manufacturing, and manufacturing has a very clear taxation process, right? So I understand because Wyoming understands severance tax and we have natural resources. And I think Representative Campbell has some very good ideas here. So please don't get it wrong. I don't know if this is the right path, but I do know a sales tax, or even to Representative Tarver's point, like you are. And again, I swim in the waters of California and I live in Wyoming. And if you were to argue like water is a limited resource in Wyoming, every green environmentalist would be like, you're absolutely right. And the Greens would love you. And if you somehow or another came back and said, you're using our potable water for this, then you're going to pay that. I mean, that's not unreasonable, I don't think.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
can I just add one thing there too, is I think we've on a dynamic like, where hydrogen is currently produced in Wyoming, all of a sudden we're adding a tax to it, but they have no plans to sell that hydrogen. So they're not selling the hydrogen they produce that is produced in Wyoming today. So we would add a tax on something they're not even selling.
Right.
So that I think to that point, Representative Wally makes is if you have this as a sales tax, you have a much different paradigm of at least you're not taxing somebody who's just producing hydrogen in a product that they're not currently selling.
And gentlemen, you're bringing up some very good important aspects of this bill. There's still a lot of rough edges on it that we need to get this right. So I don't know if we're going to have time to do all that in this meeting. Representative Campbell, I would seriously consider bringing it as an interim topic because this is important and I want to get it right. I've been involved in litigation and severance taxes. Representative Campbell.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'd like to make motion that we move this to the interim.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have multiple seconds. So seconded by Representative Weber and Representative Larson. All those that's not debatable. All those in favor, please motion by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you for your consideration. Representative Campbell, I would encourage strongly that we bring this back because there are some important implications for the state in the future. And we don't want to kill a process that's beginning in its infancy, but we don't want to wait too long to put in place of a tax structure, because we've seen that with some other industries. What comes to mind right now is our solar farms. We wanted to wait until it came, and now it's here and we can't put a tax on it. So it's better to let industry know there's one coming than to wait and after they've got the project built, all of a sudden say, well, we're going to tax you now.
Mr. Chairman, respectfully, I want to say, I think Wyoming sits in a very important place. And I think just forming a strategy that could incorporate the taxation, but also the encouragement of that would be I know a ton of businesses would love to be based here. Just
Yes.
saying.
And we would love to have the input from industry, what is going to work. We want a win-win for industry in the state of Wyoming. So let's work on this in the summertime. Prepare your thoughts, Mr. Murdoch, Mr. McKay, and Mr. Sachet. Let's work together and come up with a consensus that's going to work for everyone. Thank you. With that, we will move on to the last bill. It is House Bill number 2. Now recognize the number on that. House Bill 2. This had to have been filed way early in the process to get that low of a number.
I think you might have found it before you left.
Like last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should get a,
Before you left.
yeah, this may have been filed in March. Yeah.
I'm right in front of me.
That's it.
All right, Representative Filer, welcome to our little community.
Hey, thanks, Mr. Chairman. How are you?
So introduce yourself and please proceed.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm Lee Filer, State Representative for House District 44 here in Cheyenne. And I bring you the fastest bill of the session. And that'd be fast track permits, House Bill 2. Hence why I wanted to get it numbered as fast as I could, just because of the title. What fast track permits does, Mr. Chairman, is gives a defined timeline for developers or anybody that's want to build a residential dwelling or home. And it gives a defined time frame of when you turn all your documentation into your building department, that they have a certain amount of time to get back to you to tell you if it's complete or not complete, and what you got to do in order to get it complete. And then once it's complete, it also gives a defined timeline that the municipality will have you issue building permit within a certain time frame. And what this does is a lot of times developers want to plan ahead and understand they want that certainty of a time frame of when they can, get their subcontractors lined up, whatever that might be. And this gives them something defined all the way through our 13 building departments in the state of Wyoming. So no matter where they go, there's the building department. It's the same rule. Last year I brought a bill, the same type of bill. There were some issues with it with planners, the municipalities, the county planning and building departments. So what I did this past year is I worked on this for months with them. And we came up, I think, with a pretty solid a plan here that helps the developers and also helps the municipalities. But another thing it does too, Mr. Chairman, is many times there was, a building permit was issued, something was missed in the planning process. And the developer would call and say, hey, I need an inspection. And the inspector would come out and say, oh, wait a minute, we forgot this and we forgot this and we forgot this. Well, that takes time away from the developer then because they missed that in the planning process. So what it does is it gives a 10% fee of the permit fee back to the developer in order to recoup maybe some of those losses if you have to go back to an engineer, rechange something, resubmit something, which costs the developer money. So what it does is it creates accountability for the developer. They're going to have to submit everything like it's supposed to be. And then it also creates accountability for the municipality and the building inspectors to not change the rules in the middle of the game. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll take any questions.
Any questions for Representative Filer? Questions? Representative, so as I read through this, I envision a developer that has a subdivision they're developing. They get a permit for one home and then they have to go through the whole process again for the second home. And it's repetitive and a lot of extra time and effort is put into each home, and that drives up costs for the developer, of course. So this is more once you get just correct me if I'm wrong, but once you go through the permitting process for the first building on this subdivision, it's just replicating that. It makes it go faster. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, yes, and you're talking more of a subdivision plat on something like that. And usually those processes are pretty fast. Once you get that first one done, they usually, it's almost copy paste as long as there's nothing changing with grade or something like that that might come into play. But yeah, this will make, but what it really, I think really targets is that it's getting that first one done, right? And then you're going to have a permit within, say, 30 days if everything's done correctly. But after that, it makes it pretty easy for the planner and the building department to go, yep, it's almost copy paste as we keep moving forward instead of going through the whole entire process each and every time. They already have it sitting in front of them, which that audit really automatically happens now. But it's getting that first part going. And it might be just that one dwelling that, you bought a piece of land and want to build a house, right? So it just lets you know that, hey, if I do everything right, I got a permit in 30 days. I can start working. I can line up my contractors.
So Representative Filer, can this be extended into industry for an industrial park or something like that? I'm familiar with what Utah did last year with something called flexible permitting. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but whereby you go into an industrial park and the first permit goes through all the scrutiny of environmental analysis and all that. But then as it gets expanded, it's more, it's easier because you're just replicating what's already been done. And it creates an environment where industry can grow quickly without all the additional permitting in that one industrial park that's already gone through an EA.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, with that, this bill touches none of that. This is strictly residential.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any questions? Representative Riggins, I see one coming, a question coming.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Representative Filer. Page 4. This line 18, it just has the applicant, notice to the applicant no later than 15 days, calendar days after receipt of the application. What is the normal application period?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Riggins, I believe that it just depends on the building department, what their rules are. So what we're trying to do here is specify, it's going to be the same no matter where you're at. And Representative Riggins, I do have a small amendment. It looks big, but it's very small. That actually changes that also from 15 calendar days to 10 calendar days, or 15 calendar days to 10 business days, which is pretty much almost the same. And I think the reason why I did that's because of holidays, stuff like that might interfere. But no, you're with a lot of the projects that I've done, a lot of times they're getting back to you within that time frame anyway. It just puts it in statute to where a developer or builder knows, hey, I know I'm going to hear something within those 10 days. Well, if it passes 10 days.
Representative
Thank you.
Lawley? Oh, do you have a follow-up? Okay, Representative Lawley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Representative Filer, for the bill. And I did want you, if you would, to walk us through the amendment, because I think that will help us to kind of know how this changes some things, and I would be helpful to me if you would do that for us. So.
Representative?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Representative Lawley, I can walk you guys through this amendment. So under 1613-101 on page 2, well, actually starts at, I guess, page 1, line 12, delete entirely. But that's because we're just moving stuff over. So 1613-101, I want to add, any board or county commissioners that regulates, restricts the location, use of buildings and structures, and the use of this occupancy of land resident pursuant to statute 185201. It also does the same thing in the next paragraph for municipalities. What that is I guess with the municipalities and the building departments through the IBC codes, stuff like that, they have to have this kind of language in there to make sure that you pull on a permit, you can't just go, build a house in the alley, right? It's got to be the right use of the land in order to do that. So it's just adding that in there so that way it's under the International Residential Code. So if you go to page 2, also it just deletes that after application on page 2, line 8. It says after application insert submitted by an applicant. So this is going to be under your definitions. Right now it says application means a residential building permit application for construction, but it has to be applied for by the applicant. And that just kind of clears that up for those planning and building departments. It also allows, let's see here, let's see. on page 2, line 9, we would delete permanently because we're going to redefine those correctly through the IBC. Page 10, family, delete that, or townhouse, or delete family and delete or townhouse. All that does is because we're going to be still defining townhouse and those dwellings within IBC because the building department's adopted those. We want those to conform. Let's see. The meat of the rest of it is page 3, line 9. After the information, insert or through permitting software used by a local government entity. So what that is delivered by electronic means. A lot of people just think it's email. Well, it could be more broad than that because some municipalities, building departments don't just use email. Now they have like an online way where you can apply for your permits. So that's just going to add that software that's used where you can apply for your permit that way. Page 3, line 20. After sanitation, we're going to insert, and that has a separate means of egress. And I think that's just more conforming again to the IBC. They got to have that separate egress. And then page 4, lines 18. Again, I think this is Representative Riggins thing. We're going to delete 15 and insert 10, and then add calendar days on the next line. Then page 7's line 23. We're going to skip ahead here. Page 7, line. Okay. We're going to delete 1. So detached of 1 family dwelling or townhouse because they're attached anyway. So again, it's more conforming for IBC. Other than that, Mr. Chairman, that's pretty much the whole amendment.
Representative Riggins, the amendments that you're proposing, is that was because of input from the cities or counties, or how did that come about?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So I worked with I have a planner here in Cheyenne who's the largest planning department in the state of Wyoming, but also with the other planners and building departments. And what we wanted to do was find a way to make sure, because this bill is, I think, wonderful the way it's written right here. But in order for it to work correctly, we have to make sure that it conforms and actually works within that IBC that we use within our building department. So we're talking with them. They just said if we could just tighten that part up, that way we're doing it correctly and it's something that they can actually apply and allow the developers to use. Because otherwise it might get challenged to the municipality or county saying, hey, which townhouse definition we're using, states, IBCs, I mean, all that kind of stuff.
Okay,
Mr.
Representative Lawley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Filer, do you, I'm referring to your page 1 of your amendment, and I'll put line 16 and then on line 21, 16, 17, 16, 15, 16 actually, and then 21, 22. You have this caveat of any border county commissioners that has adopted a version, and then the same thing down on the other nominate 2 there. And I guess my question is, do you have any information of what counties and municipalities have adopted that in Wyoming? I obviously come from a very rural district, and honestly, I sit here, I don't think they have. I think they're considering it, like in my county that I live in, which is Washakie County. But do we have any numbers on that? Because that is kind of a qualifier for a lot of this. So.
Representative.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Lawley, you're absolutely correct. But every building department has some type of version of the International Residential Code
Okay.
in order to be part of that building department. If you actually have that, where you're going to pull permits, you have a planning commission, all those different things, you have to have a version of that International Residential Code in order for that to apply. So if you don't have a building department, well, it's awesome.
Follow up, Representative Lawley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But does it matter what version they have? Do they have to have the most latest? I'm trying to understand how it works. Honestly, I know you said I can call them and ask them, but the truth is, this is a new amendment, and so I can't phone a friend right now. So, but this is very crucial to my district, just so you know.
Yes, ma'am.
very crucial. My vote kind of depends on this, if you want to know the truth. Because it's just important that I'm not burdening them when we don't have the problems that you're describing that are real and are necessary, but burdening them with timelines and things. When we don't have an actual department, we have some processes in place, but it's a very small county, the municipality, very small. So much of this doesn't even apply, but when you bring it in this way, I kind of need to understand that nuance a little bit. So it is important. And I could probably leave the room and call, but this is an amendment you brought today.
Representative.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Lawley, I completely understand. It's going to be a version of that international residential code. There might be multiple versions, but I think what that does is gives leeway to the home rule type stuff to where they adopt the right version they need for that area. If your municipality or county is going to actually have a building department, I'm pretty sure they're going to go through those processes. But I do believe that there is planners in this room and there's possibly building inspectors in this room and everything that can answer even more of those questions for you, Representative Lawley.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll let you relax for a little bit. Are there any counties or municipalities that would like to testify? This does affect you, so we would like to hear from you. Nick, welcome.
Mr. Chairman, Nick Agopian, representing the Wyoming County Commissioners Association and also Teton County. Thank you today for bringing this bill up. I think I could answer the Representative Lawley's question. The language on the amendment, page 1, starting at lines 10 through 22, is intended specifically to ensure that those counties that do not have building permits and those counties that do not require permits do not have to stand up a building department and comply with this bill. That is the sole intent of it. This came with the recommendation from WyoPass. I'm not sure if one of the planners is in the room or not, but the recommendation is for clarity on how it applies. And so we believe that this language ensures that it does not create an additional burden for our towns and counties.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Going forward with this bill, we support this bill with these amendments today for the county commissioners in Teton County. Representative Filer certainly want to acknowledge his desire to get input from the towns and counties throughout the interim. And we have worked with them and we appreciate having that relationship and the door being open. That I believe Representative Filer explained very well what the amendments do in this bill, and they don't structurally change the bill. They do ensure that there's certainty in its compliance for us moving forward. For us, I think it is an acknowledgement. Having to have this language is an acknowledgement, maybe that it's not a statewide issue. It's a community specific issue as we see growth at various levels across our state based on the community itself. And so some of these problems do exist, and these problems exist in some communities, but not in all. And then for my community, the review of the vertical construction. The great thing about this bill is it doesn't, it ensures that when you submit that plan or when you submit your permit, you already have your zoning in place. You already have your grading in place. And then you can have your permit reviewed very quickly for the vertical construction moving forward. I think with that, I'd probably just stand for questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Agopian. And any questions for Mr. Agopian? Seeing none, thank you very much. Bob?
Mr. Chairman, Bob McLaurin with WAM. I think Nick spoke very well and reflects our position pretty well. We really appreciate Representative Filer's working with us on this. Like I said, we had a bill last year that we couldn't quite agree on. He's narrowed the scope, and we think that this is something we can work within. And having said that, I'll answer any questions, but turn it over to these gentlemen that know far more about it than I do.
And from our perspective, I don't like it when the state tells municipalities how to do things. So we want to make sure we're not encumbering you with additional regulations.
We can live with this. So
Okay.
we appreciate Representative Filer reaching out to us and working with us, and given the narrow scope of it, it's workable.
Okay. Any questions, committee? All right. Please introduce yourself.
Chairman Heiner, Charles Bloom, Planning and Development Director for the City of Cheyenne, also a WyoPass member. I really do appreciate these amendments that are moving forward. What they really do is make this a workable piece of legislation that really aligns well with our international residential code. And also provides that clarification, again, as Nick had mentioned, that this does not require a city or a county to stand up a building department or anything along those lines. We're in support of this right now. We believe in Cheyenne that this is largely going to go unnoticed because our deadlines that we have internally actually fall well within this time frame. So if there are areas where communities are struggling that they can't meet these deadlines, there are concerns. They need to make sure they can figure out ways to move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Bloom. Any questions? Seeing none?
Honorable Chair, Todd Feaser, City Manager for Laramie.
Honorable Chair, that's a new one.
That-
Hey, you go right ahead and talk as long as you want.
All right. I will try to not reiterate everything you've heard again. Thank you to Representative Filer for the amendments and working with us on this. As Representative Filer indicated, it's about consistency across the state. Being in Laramie, we have builders come in from Casper, Rollin, Cheyenne, and our own local builders. And I think the consistency for those builders as they come in to know that the timing is the same is really important. And we believe that this will largely go unnoticed in our building department also. So we appreciate it and we support it as it's presented today.
Thank you. I hope my wife was watching so she could have heard that. I can't get her to call me honorable at home.
They aren't taping it, so you can give
All
it to
right,
her.
good. Any questions? Thank you very much for your participation. All right, open it up for any public testimony. Anyone in the room that'd like to come and testify? We'd like to hear from you. You've taken time out of your busy day to be here. We would like to hear what you have to say. Ladies first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, my name is Kelly Little. I represent the Associated General Contractors of Wyoming. AGC of Wyoming is in support of this bill. We appreciate the clarity and consistency that the bill provides. We also appreciate the clarification in the amendment with the definitions, just, making sure everybody's on an even playing field and on the same page is very important. And with that, I would stand for questions.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Little. Any questions? Before we go on, Jeff, anybody in the room going to oppose this or speak badly about this bill?
You're gonna be mean.
Okay, all right. Just want to know where we're headed with this. So Jeff, Mr. Daugherty.
Exalted Chairman and members of the
Okay.
members of the committee.
Let's be real now.
Mr. Chairman, Jeff Daugherty here on behalf of FGA Action today and speaking in favor of the bill that's in front of you. As many of you know, I previously served as a planning director for almost 2 decades. Also spent a lot of time building schools around the state for the state of Wyoming. So I have a fair amount of background in permitting, and I want to tell the sponsor thank you. This was a bill that we started working on last year, and I'm so grateful to WAM and the County Commissioners Association for coming to the table and having earnest, honest conversations about how to move it forward. I will tell you in response to your question earlier, Mr. Chairman.
That's honorable.
Honorable Chairman, thank you. There's a balance, there's a scale. So,
Okay.
but I will tell you that one of the things after you get a plan approved, jurisdictions can have a card file. So literally if it's the same house in the same area, it's something they can review and approve in a couple of days. So that's something that jurisdictions can choose to do themselves. But Mr. Chairman, one of the reasons I'm very supportive of this bill is the cost of housing is astonishing. And while this doesn't in and of itself solve it, it's a step in the right direction. Because when you don't have predictability around getting your permits, things change, interest rates change, and it makes what was once already a very expensive house unattainable. And so it's vital that citizens be able to get their permits approved within a reasonable period of time. And I will tell you that generally jurisdictions do try to do that. I am aware of instances in the state where it's taken a year to get a permit. And it's not uncommon to take several months to get a residential building permit. And I understand these jurisdictions are strained and doing their dead level best, but I think having a solid target for them to hit is vital. And let me speak briefly to why we have the 10% refund. in the bill because it's important. One of the things that happens is after plans are stamped, an applicant thinks, well, golly, I can go build this thing in accordance with the stamped plans. But sometimes things are caught after the permit. Sometimes they're life safety, sometimes they're not. And so the building official has full discretion to compel you to comply with the code. And when it's those lower scale violations, what we want is for the county commissioners and the town councils to be aware of how often the public is being made to make corrections after the fact. I know of one case in the state where an applicant had a stamped set of plans and the jurisdiction came back and said, shoot, we were supposed to approve a cold roof with that. And he was compelled to put a cold roof over the top of his existing roof. Not okay. When I was building for the schools, they would come out and say, well, golly, now that we were here for your inspection, we noticed your sidewalks are bad. And the state doesn't put that money in my budget to do that. So we wanted the jurisdiction to be aware, and the department can't issue the refund checks. And so we wanted the commissioners and the town council to know that these were coming up. And if you have a couple a month, no big deal. Nobody's perfect. But if you're getting several a day, then that presents an opportunity for the jurisdiction to coach up the building department and find out if there's a problem in the process that they can work through. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to stop there and answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Daughtry. I strongly believe that the solution to our housing crisis, housing problem starts with permitting, and I appreciate what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Any questions for Mr. Daughtry? Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman. My name is James Halverson, Deputy State Director with Wyoming Americans for Prosperity. First off, I just want to thank you guys for your time and commitment to the process. I know what it's like to put in long days, and I appreciate you guys. So thank you for being here, and thank you for all you do. Thankfully, when I was in high school, I did not play basketball. I was a wrestler because our basketball team was terrible. And being terrible, we had a really big powerhouse team in our region. And at that time, we came up with a good plan, not me, but some of my friends who played the sport. And they were just going to hold the ball, right? They were just going to pass that ball the whole first quarter. And they did successfully, just passed it around, passed it. And at the end of that first quarter, it was 2-0 for that other team. That was a pretty good, successful first quarter for the old Seahawks. But that's not how the game ended. And so not long after that was when we instituted a shot clock, right? We forced the action. And that's all this bill really does, is it's just a shot clock. It forces the action. We think that if we're required to submit an application for a permit, then you're required to give us a timely response to that. We don't think that that's too much to ask. You know, a year ago, we all watched in horror as the wildfires swept through California and the Palisades. And you guys probably know how much building has gone on in that area since then. 0. Let's not be like California, right? We need to put a shot clock on this. There have been instances, like the previous speaker said, where there's been people out for over a year without getting a response for that. We just don't think that's absolutely acceptable. We think we need to hold our officials accountable, and we think we need a shot clock on that. So with that, I'll be quiet and stand for any questions.
Thank you. That's a good analogy. Appreciate that. Did you do that in wrestling as well? Just to run around and
wrestling, you just got to go.
All right. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Here's a familiar face, Mr. McKay.
Mr. Chairman, Rennie McKay, President of the Wyoming Business Alliance back. As I spoke earlier to you, our focus is trying to help our businesses thrive. And I got to go around this year and have meetings with businesses in every county of Wyoming. And every county in Wyoming, businesses brought up housing as being a limitation to finding workforce. So as you want to help businesses in Wyoming, anything you can do on housing helps them get the talent they need. So really appreciate you bringing this. Mr. Chairman, you just mentioned permitting that, you know, there are costs, right, that are added in the process that do this. And I really want to applaud. We've got some cities in Wyoming who are really working hard right now to address these. And if there's an ordinance that brings up costs, they're getting rid of those. And so we are in a place though where we have to compete with other regions as well to attract housing developers here so we can get going. And so this is just a great step in that process. I've got one member who's a housing developer in your county, Representative Schmid, and he brought this fact forward that when he builds a project, the carrying cost per $1 million, if you have a $2 million project going, the carrying cost for just a delay of 1 month is $10,000 per million. So you'd lose $20,000 just in that time period of waiting. So this is just a great step. You can do something great for businesses here and helping them get workforce. So we really support this bill and appreciate your consideration of it.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. McKay? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Any more testimony that would like to come forward? I want to give everyone an opportunity. Going once, going twice. You want to provide testimony?
Yeah, we've heard from city administrations that are pretty robust support staff. So I'd like to know if there's anybody in this room that have lesser staff that could then maybe comment on any impact this might have on them, if there's anybody in this room that would do that.
Mr. Murdoch.
Honorable Chairman, Matt Murdoch with the Wyoming Association of Municipalities and also the Mayor of Pinedale. We have two folks in my planning and zoning department. And we're grateful for Representative Filer to work with us because we asked for some of these amendments for the express purpose of what we were looking at. This is their shot clock totally makes sense. And again, speaking as a developer, I'm fully on board. We are working very hard as WHAM, and Pinedale, for example, is creating a whole new digital permitting system that's going to give us the ability to do these much quicker, much more transparently, so that applicants can actually know what the status is. But it is a big deal to try to get as much things done. And sometimes we have to hire outside engineers, and that's where it gets complicated. And so what has been created in this bill is there's that leeway that if we have to go to an outside counsel, we can, and that shot clock then gets paused for us. So we're in support of the bill, and we have thoughtfully looked at it to make sure that a town like Pinedale could still conform to this. Because I go back to your original comment, Mr. Chairman, that we don't want to impose something from the state that a town's just going to trip over and fall on, and then we look bad. So,
all right, thank you. Mr. Bloom. Ladies usually go first, but somehow I got backwards on this one.
And Chairman, members of the committee, Charles Bloom, Planning Development Director for the City of Cheyenne. Valid concern with staffing sizes, and I think the mayor did a really good job of indicating how his community can react. But also we need to be cognizant of the fact that a lot of our building departments have a lot of turnover. We see that a lot here in Cheyenne because what happens is they see a more attractive paycheck from a construction project right down the road, or another one in another community. So in looking at this, we considered those as this moves forward, and really still within our processes, with our turnover, with our retraining, with our new hires that come on, this still is not envisioned to be a problem.
Okay, thank you. Ma'am?
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate it. And Representative Riggins, I appreciate requests for coming up. Obviously, we're a smaller
Would you
municipality.
introduce yourself?
Mayor of Mills, so sorry. We're a smaller municipality, but we also represent the town of Bar None.
Would you introduce your name?
Oh, Leah Juarez, sorry, Mayor of Mills.
That's who I thought you were. I just wanted to make sure.
I'm excited to be here.
All right, thank you.
Well, we also represent Bar None, so we inspect and oversee the town of Bar None as well, which clearly doesn't have a building department at all. So I'm in support of all the amendments, and I think it's really beneficial. And it's disappointing that there may be places out there that are holding on to building permits. Isn't our goal to build and expand? So it seems somewhat retaliatory in a way, but we do everything we can. And we've done the same as Mayor Murdoch. We've streamlined our processes to bring them online so that they can apply for the permits online and see where it sits. So I don't see any real constraints here for us. I actually just see a great opportunity for everybody to move forward with building homes.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate you being here. And last time you testified, we didn't get to see you. We always saw was a voice coming from the sky.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Any questions for the mayor?
Mr. Chairman, can I make one more comment?
Yes, Mr.
We are hoping for an appropriation. We don't know which way we're going to go, but we are looking for digitizing all 99 towns. There is some really good technologies out there and trying to get it so that this process could be transparent. It would help on public record side. It would help on transparency and also accelerate the whole permitting process. So I know, for example, the process that we're using now is going to be the equivalent of one full-time person in the town of Pinedale. And it's going to be significant for us. So we would like to see all the other towns benefit from that. And I know that's a discussion active that's not relative to this committee, but it is relative to your position. So I just wanted to mention that here.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate your testimony. Let's go online. Libby, do you have anyone online?
Mr. Chairman, we do not have any online testimony.
Okay. Representative Filer, are there any fiscal notes with this? So there's no, this is a different bill that we have. Yeah, but just to make sure, there's not any fiscal impacts at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I think the only fiscal impact would be that the municipalities and building departments. Mr. Chairman, I think the building departments might actually get some more applicants. So the fiscal impact would be good for our municipalities.
Okay. Okay. Any other testimony before we wrap this up? Going twice? Thank you. We'll close public testimony. Committee, what's your pleasure? Moved by Representative Schmidt, seconded by Representative Larson. Discussion.
Yes.
Representative Lawley.
Mr. Chairman, we heard from a number of people that testified, and I appreciate, because again, coming from a smaller district, that the changes in the amendment were very important to this being workable. So I wanted to go ahead and move this amendment, if I might, and then have that in the discussion of the bill, because, you know, it does change it in some ways, so that maybe we don't get confused.
Do we
I'd make a motion that we accept this amendment that is amendment, it says, let's see, number 3, I think,
So it's, yeah,
in its entirety.
as presented to us from Representative Filer. Do I have a second? Seconded by Chairman Knapp. Discussion on the amendment. Representative Lawley.
I really appreciate this amendment and the work that was done on it, Representative Filer. I wasn't really kidding earlier when I said this amendment makes a difference in whether I support the bill or not, because of the potential impact on my small rural counties and municipalities. So I appreciate it and I thank you for it.
Any other discussion? I hear question being called? Question being, I thought I heard that.
Yeah, you did.
Question being called. All those in favor of Representative Lawley's amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Amendment passes. Other discussion on House Bill 2.
Question.
Question being called. Members, we are voting on House Bill 2, Fast Track Permits Act as amended. Mark, would you call the roll, please?
Representative Campbell.
Aye.
Representative Knapp.
Aye.
Representative Larson.
Aye.
Representative Lawley.
Aye.
Representative Riggins.
Aye.
Representative Schmidt.
Aye.
Representative Tarver.
Aye.
Representative Weber.
Aye.
Chairman Heiner.
Aye.
9-0. This is due pass with amendment.
Thank you very much, committee. I hope those of you that have come to our committee for the first time can see that we're not always glum and gloomy here. Sometimes we can have fun. So come back. Thank you. We'll adjourn for today.
And
Thank you for making that.